It's December 2010. I'm at a chamber holiday party a lot like this one. And because I'm a guy, where do you think I was standing? By the food. Bar wasn't open. And I'm just enjoying the sights and sounds and smells of the event. And all of a sudden I see out of the corner of my eye this woman walking very quickly toward me. She's got a beautiful tailored suit, nicely cut hair, jewels that just sparkled from the lights over her head. And I thought, this is a woman of means, very successful. But the look on her face betrayed her appearance. She practically ran up to me and said, "I understand you're a speech coach." "Yes, ma'am, I am. Can I help you?" She said, "Oh, I hope so, Michael. My name's Patty, and I've done something really stupid." "What's that?" She said, "I agreed to give the keynote speech for the Women of Excellence dinner. And it is driving me crazy. It's making me sick to my stomach. My stomach's in knots all the time. I can't sleep at night. It's all I think about." She said, "I wish I'd never agreed to do this." And I said, "Well, Patty, I don't understand. I've heard about you." I said, you talk a lot. Why are you afraid to give this speech?" "Oh, I'm not afraid to give the speech. My problem is I don't know when to shut up." And that same reaction. And she said, "Look, I'm not trying to be funny here. This is a great opportunity for our foundation, and we can get our name out in the community, and I'm so afraid that I'm going to embarrass the foundation and our people. Can you help me?" I said, "Patty, I'm not sure. We need to talk a little bit further. By the way, when is the speech?" "Oh, not until November." I said, "November? You got 11 months to think about this speech and get stressed out and sick even more?" She said, "Oh, thanks a lot." Now jump ahead 11 months. I'm sitting in a room with 320 other people, and we're all rising to our feet, giving Patty a standing ovation. And not because she finally shut up. She gave a speech and filled with stories that were so compelling. She was inspiring, and she evoked tears and laughter. And when it was over, and I kind of worked my way back and talked to her, she was so excited. She said, "You're not going to believe what happened, Michael. 4 people walked up and gave me checks for the foundation on the spot." I said, "That's fantastic." She said, "Not only that, 6 other people volunteered their time to the foundation. You never said this would happen. You just said I'd get through the speech." And we talked a little bit further, and right before we parted ways, she took my hands in hers and said, "I cannot thank you enough for the work we did together. You know, I was a wreck when we first met, and now I've had this happen today. I can't wait to do this again." I'm curious, this is a hypothetical question for you. If you were in the market for a speech coach or presentation skills coach, would you be willing to talk to me based on that story alone? I'm not saying would you hire me on the spot, but would you be willing to talk to me further if you were in that situation? Yes. See some heads nodding. Why? I didn't tell you a thing about my background. I didn't tell you where I got educated, who my clients are, what my fees. I didn't tell you any of that, but you'd still be willing to talk to me. Why?
You shared a success story.
Shared a success story. What else? What else about the story resonated with you?
Success.
It was a success story. So I told a story, and you know nothing about me, you'd be willing to talk. Now I want you to imagine in your world, I don't care what it is you do. By the way, do you have competitors? I think everybody does, right? There are very few jobs in the world that don't have competitors. Imagine if your prospective clients, patients, whatever your field is, imagine if they had the same reaction you just did. Yes, I'd be willing to talk to you based on a story. See, that's the power of a well-told story. It breaks down barriers that we face every day. You know, in the marketing world, I learned years ago that you need to contact people 7 times in order for them to do business with you. What's the number today? It's at least 24. And why is that? Everybody's contacting cell phones, internet, TV, 24/7. Literally, we are being bombarded by marketing messages. And if you take nothing else away from this today, remember this. The one tool that you have in your marketing, networking, advertising bag that nobody in this world can duplicate is your story. Now, there are other people that have done business with Patty. I don't know if she's worked with any other speech coaches. She still works with me today. I'm the only one that can tell that story that way. That's a competitive edge. So, as Linda said in the introduction, what you're going to learn about today is, first of all, why stories are so powerful. Second, the most powerful storytelling formula. And then third, what I call the 7 keys, or on your page, you'll see the 7 C's to sensational storytelling. Now, that's a lot for an hour. So you're going to kind of learn about those. We're not going to get terribly in depth, but you will walk away with some strategies. And this is something I do in my speeches and presentations now. If there is a brave soul in the audience who will come up, I will give you some live coaching. No pressure. You're in front of 50 or 60 of your peers, but I will do it. We don't have a lot of time, but I see a hand going up. We won't do it yet. We'll get to it. What's your name? Tracy, I'll bring you up in a little bit. Give her a hand already. Just raise her hand. All right, so let's talk just for a couple of minutes. Why are stories so important? Why are they so powerful? And you're allowed to talk now. Why are they so powerful?
They're more memorable.
Memorable. Who said that? Okay. Why are they memorable?
It's easier to remember something that's sequenced out for you and has an interesting end.
Right. Pictures, right?
Yeah.
So many presentations, and I was talking with Eric earlier, and his background is a CPA. And my background for years was a financial planner. CPAs, financial planners, attorneys, what do people typically feel when they know they're going to listen to one of those people give a speech? Let's just be honest, right? Eric, you're in the field. Oh my God. There's an hour of my life I'll never get back. Now, I know this because this is why I got into speaking years ago as a financial planner. I was giving workshops and seminars, and this was the evaluation I got from my boss. You tell me what the evaluations were. He said, fix this or else. Wow. They weren't good. That's why I got into speaking in the first place. So, great stories create pictures in the minds of the listener. And do they create, what are some other benefits, or why do stories work?
They evoke emotion.
Emotion, that's the key. This is a critical piece that I learned from a gentleman named Michael Hay. And I'll mention some resources today. This is one. Get this book. It's called Storytelling Made Easy by Michael Hay, H-A-U-G-E. Michael is a leading Hollywood scriptwriting consultant, but he also works in businesses. And what he taught me was that the purpose of a story is to evoke emotion. Because once you evoke emotion in people, now they're willing to listen to you. You're starting to break down barriers. Let's go back to my Patty story. Was there an emotional reaction that you had to that? And by emotion, I don't mean you breaking down in tears or rolling over like hysterical laughter. I'm just talking any kind of emotional connection to her.
I was intrigued because she was nervous even though she was already good at what she did.
She was nervous. What else? Tracy.
I liked the excitement that when she came back, the accomplishment that she had done, and we've seen the people writing checks and that she had an achieved goal for the speech. that she was
Exactly.
going to do.
She was nervous. She was excited. What else? Can you relate to those emotions? Have you ever been excited? Have you ever been nervous about something? Immediately, she was relieved. And we'll get into why that is in a little bit. But stories create emotions, they create pictures, and now I'm not going to get into brain research. I don't want you to walk away as brain scientists today. But researchers have discovered that when you listen to a presentation that's filled with facts and figures, and I've seen MRI pictures of this, a little bit of the left side of the brain lights up. But when you hear a story, because we're in the holiday season, your brain scan looks like a Christmas tree. Every part of your brain lights up. You are more engaged. We are literally wired for story. Storytelling is a subject which has become very popular in the business world today. My challenge with it is I still don't see a lot of people out talking to you why and specifically how to craft stories that people will react to. So we're wired for story. Think about the tortoise and the hare. What was the purpose or the moral of that story? Slow and steady wins the race. Your name is? Eric. When was the last time you heard that story, Eric?
A couple years ago.
You're a dad, aren't you? No? Okay. Even a couple years. For most of us, it goes back a lot longer than that. But did we instantly know the purpose of the story? Yes, because it created pictures in us as children and it embedded a message. So that's why we tell stories, because they stick. Now let's talk about the most powerful storytelling formula. I don't care if you're in leadership, sales, whatever your position, this can give you an edge. It's called the then, now, and how formula. Then, now, and how. The best example I can give you of then, now, and how, and by the way, Linda, can you give me is that clock over there accurate on the mantle? It says 9:20.
Yes.
Okay, good. You just enjoy your breath. Then, now, and how is a before and after picture. So the best example I can give you of this is think about diet commercials, whether they're in print, on the internet, or on TV. What do they usually do in diet commercial? There's a picture. It's usually a dark, grainy photo. It's a guy, let's say, looks like me, but he's, underneath it says, here's Mike at 3:20, and I look miserable, right? And next to that, full, vibrant color picture. There's me standing, big smile, beautiful woman on my arm. Underneath it says, here's Mike at 198. If you're a person who's looking to lose weight and you see those two pictures, what is the first question that comes to mind? How do you do it? I want that result. How can I get that? That's what then, now, and how does. If you're a person who wants to become a better speaker, what did that Patty story, what question did it create in your mind? How did she do it? How did she go from where she was? She was pretty stressed out, would you say? To where she couldn't wait to do it again. Huge contrast. You can use this, I don't care what it is you do, you can use this same format. Whether you're a CPA, you're an attorney, you're in whatever business, you tell the story of a person who before they met you was in some type of distress, I call it. And after working with you, their lives are so significantly better. Now here are a couple of keys to then, now, and how. The person has to be what I call in distress. They've got to be pretty emotionally in a bad place. Because if they're not, if there's not a lot of contrast between where they were and where they are today, it's not going to work. If I had met Patty and she walked up to me and said, yeah, I gotta give this speech, and I'm a little nervous about it, but I think I'm good. I think I'll be okay. Is there going to be a story there? Are you even intrigued? Do you care? It's like, I think so. And maybe afterwards she's like, yeah, that went pretty well, but I kind of expected people to come up to me. Yeah, I don't think you're going to remember that story. In my old days in the financial planning world, I would have people come in who were literally distraught. They thought, there's no way we can retire. We can't get our kids educated. And it's literally causing a problem in our marriage. Jump ahead 12 months. They're sitting down with me in a review saying, you know what, when we met you a year ago, we were so stressed out. You know where we were. We thought our marriage might end because of all these financial worries. Today, we're feeling a heck of a lot better about ourselves. We can retire and we can get our kids educated. Don't most people want that result? I'm just using the example of a financial planner, but don't your clients want that result if you're in the financial world? We all want that, right? That's the kind of result that people on the end, well, that's the I lost 100 pounds, that's the, I'm in financially better shape, I'm giving a better speech and I can't wait to do it. So make sure there's contrast between the first story and the second, because the greater the contrast, the more likely you're going to sell whatever it is you're selling. So, some people get scared by that word sales. Don't. Whether you, if you're you're a salesperson, clearly you're sales. Leadership, you're selling, right? You're selling an idea. Every man in the room, if you've ever had to pursue, and found a woman you wanted to pursue, you had to sell yourself, right? A lot of competition out there. Here's why I'm the better guy. Right? So we're always selling something. So any questions so far on that? You understand why stories are important and the storytelling formula. Now let's take a look at the heart of this presentation, which I call Sail the 7 Seas to Sensational Storytelling. These are the 7 factors that can make your story memorable, meaningful, and inspire people to take some kind of action. And I'll refer back to the Patty story. And as I'm going through this, think about a story from your life that you can begin to structure using these 7 tools. Mine is just a teaching point that you think about how you can craft your own story going through here. The first C is circumstances. Now, the key to circumstances is they have to be relatable. What was relatable about Patty's circumstance? Now, think about where I was also. Where did I meet her? What kind of function was it? It was a community, it was a chamber. What time of year? Holidays. All right. Now, I chose the word holidays for a specific reason, and that's not about being PC. I chose the word holiday because it was actually a Christmas party. I chose holiday because what we say is not as important as what our listeners hear. So when I said holiday, what did you see in your mind? Christmas. Anybody not see Christmas but a different holiday? It's okay if you did. Sometimes we want to use vague words that allows the listener to paint a picture in his or her own mind. One of the issues I see with people when they tell stories, they give way too many details. To the point where it's like, okay, get on with it. Heard enough. People today have shorter attention spans, but we use a word like holiday because in your mind, I want you to see whatever it is you see. So is that relatable, being at a holiday party? I also said I heard the sights, sounds, and smells. What did you see, hear, feel when you heard that?
I felt good.
You felt good, okay.
I need to do that more.
We need to get to more parties, yes. Here's the key. Often when I see people put together, when I talk about presentation, it's not just what I'm doing up here giving a speech. It's sales presentation. It's that 20-minute with your team right before sending them out to attack the week kind of presentation. So often we sweat over specific words when what we want to do is remember the words of Michael Hay, create an emotion. By saying something like, I was at a holiday party, I was enjoying the sights, sounds, and smells, I've created enough in the listener to fill in the rest of the story. You remember the old paint by numbers kits? Yeah, you get this canvas with all these little things, and you get all these different paints, and you paint it in the numbers. Our job is to create the canvas and let the audience fill in the paint numbers. By doing that, I allow you to be part of the story. So those are relatable circumstances. I'm at a holiday event, and it's festive, and people are feeling good. The second is you've got to have characters who are relatable. That's the second C. What do you know about Patty based on the description that you heard? She's well-dressed. She's accomplished. What else?
She lacks a little confidence.
She lacks a little bit of confidence. Okay, so think about how she was dressed. I even said this was a woman of means. What does that phrase mean to you? Wealthy, rich, right? Successful. You're all creating this picture in your mind. Now, I have a challenge. I'm going to step aside from the 7 C's for a moment because this is an important question people usually ask. Does a story have to be true? Only if you want people to feel that you're an authentic person. Never make up stories. I have heard speech coaches say make up a story. I think that is some of the worst advice you can get. Because people can smell insincerity and lies. They really can. Now, with that said, Does a story have to be 100% factual? No. Is this guy nuts? Did he just tell us? Did he just contradict what he said? No, here's what I mean. A story has to be true. I met Patty. She was a client. She still is. Met her at a holiday event. What's true is that conversation I had with her probably lasted 20 or 30 minutes. If I were to give you every little detail of that conversation, would you still be listening to me? No, and I wouldn't be listening to me either. Okay? We have to get to the point with our stories. This is a big challenge. So when I say it doesn't have to be 100% factual, I have to shorten the action to get to the point. Because otherwise you're going to lose your audience. Now, that version of that story that I told actually used to be about 2 minutes longer even 2 or 3 years ago, but I've learned it. Audiences, let's go. We got stuff to do. And I need to keep your attention. I had to shorten it up. So what do we know about Patty? She's a successful person. Is she relatable to my entire audience if I leave it at that? Do you think most people I talk to are wealthy? No. Most of the population isn't wealthy. So if I left it at that, she's not relatable. Where does she become relatable?
She said she talked too much, she didn't know when to shut up.
Okay, let's dig deeper. She talked too much, didn't know how is she feeling? Insecure, scared, not sleeping. Can you relate to that? You ever had to give a presentation and felt sick to your stomach? Now she's relatable. Take away the outer look, the look of her, and now she's just like the rest of us. And that's exactly how she was. She was stressed to the max. So now we've got a relatable character who's in a circumstance which we can all also relate to. So we've got a circumstance and a character, and the third C is conflict. There is no story without a good conflict. Now, in traditional storytelling, there are many types of conflict. We don't have time to get into those, and they're not really relevant to business storytelling. I'm not talking about Indiana Jones running from the boulder type conflict, or the conflict in the greatest movie ever made, Star Wars. Yes. It's not Luke versus Darth Vader, with his daddy issues. This is, the greatest conflict is person versus him or herself. Sometimes you can have a person versus person, but the greatest conflict we have is internal, right? Wasn't that Patty's issue? I'm so scared, I'm nervous, I don't want to mess this up. I could destroy our foundation's reputation, I don't want to do that. That's all internal. Do you deal with internal struggles in some area of your life? Every day. You're not human if you don't. So you've got to have good conflict, and the conflict also has to escalate in a story. We call this the Titanic effect. Think about the movie Titanic. And just raise your hand if you haven't seen Titanic. It's the first time I think I've ever had a group. So I'm not going to do any spoilers here. But I always figure it's 20 years old. If you haven't seen it by now, I don't think you're rushing out tonight to watch it. So if you haven't seen it, sorry. What do we know about Titanic walking into the theater? Unless we're going to see something in revisionist history, it is going down. Why did we spend our money in 3 hours and 20 minutes of our life watching a movie where we knew the ending? Leonardo DiCaprio. Every time I hear Leonardo DiCaprio, I didn't think Kate Winslet was too bad myself. What was it about the movie, though? It was all of the conflict that was going on. In the beginning, when we see this elderly woman on this ship, and then she takes us back in time. This is actually a timeline story. And what do we know about Rose? She's engaged, she's in a family, she's going to marry into wealth, and she's miserable. And then we meet Leo, right? Leo's the guy who's struggling, not doing too well, but he gambles his way onto a ship. He's having struggles. And we're introduced to all these characters who are having these various struggles. And what happens with these conflicts? They begin to get worse as the movie goes on, right? Here's where James Cameron was brilliant. He's a brilliant storyteller. The Titanic itself, the ship, served as a metaphor for all of the conflict that people were going through. ship hits the iceberg, water starts to come in. You see it starting to fill up in the lower levels. Then he goes back to some of the conflict. Maybe it's Jack and the people trying to arrest him, the people that arrest him, or Rose and dealing with her family. We go back, the water's coming up higher and higher in the ship. Go back to the conflict, it's escalating. It's back and forth until the very end. When Leo sinks. Bottom of the ocean. Who cares what happens after that? There was room for him on that raft. See, 20 years later, we still have some people who are distraught about it. But my point is, the conflict escalated until there was resolution. Now, that's a movie. What about in the story I told about Patty? What was the conflict and where was it going to escalate in her world?
Donor, the donor she was worried about.
Well, she was worried about that, but what was the time frame she was looking at? A year! She was literally looking at a potential. A conflict can also be looking into the future. A year of thinking about this, being sleepless, sick to her stomach, all these issues that were just going to get worse the closer and closer she got to the date of the presentation, right? So you can have future conflict. But there has to be some in there, or else people will be like, that's okay. What if Titanic had hit the iceberg, the water came up to a certain level, and then stopped? See the Carpathia, that ship, it's going to come and rescue us. Or what if it had hit the iceberg and immediately gone down? No story, right? We're not going to go pay attention to that. So make sure your conflict has some kind of escalation. And then you have to get to the point of resolution. Don't ever leave a conflict hanging and then walk out. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I'm not going to let you know how this finished. You have to come for the sequel. So in the Patty story, there is the fourth C is called the cure scene. This is where the character learns the important lesson that changes her life, or his life. Now, in my story, you don't really learn the cure. It's what I would call an assumptive cure. How did Patty become a better speaker?
You helped her.
She got a coach. What else did she do?
She practiced.
Practiced. What else? What else would make her a better speaker?
She came up with a plan.
Came up with a
Get
plan.
organized,
Okay.
manage it.
Got a plan, practice, got a coach. Did I ever say that she did those things? And you know what? Each of you is correct. This is what I talked about before. Remember paint by numbers? You're smart people. I don't have to sit up here and give you every single step. Because again, that goes back to taking too much time, first of all. But you're going to figure it out. I have to give the benefit of the doubt that you can assume that if I'm up here telling a story about a woman who wasn't a good speaker and now is, and I'm a coach, probably not telling you about my competitor. Okay? You're going to do the same thing. Don't fill in all those blanks that are obvious to the audience. And never forget this. Whether you're in a sales situation or what I'm doing right now, audiences like to figure things out. Didn't you just play Clue? Who got it right? I know Bob did. Who else? Isn't it fun to try to figure things out? Well, let your audience do that. So the cure scene in this particular story is that Patty did get coached. What do most presenters do when they tell a story like this? They'll do something like this. Patty was looking for a coach. Oh yeah. Hit me. Man, did I coach her? She was so good, in fact, that this is what happened 11 months later. Do you really want to hear a speaker like that? Have you had to listen to speakers like that? Let's talk about the dating world for a moment. Ladies, have you ever had dudes, men, who acted like that? Really appealing, aren't they? Now, we don't want to hear. You assume that she got help from me. I didn't have to tell you. When you're telling people, prospective clients, prospective business partners, they kind of figure out if you're telling a story, it was about you. You don't have to sit there and toot your own horn. That's where the cure is. They figure out that this is what you did. Now let's talk about the fifth C. This is an important part that most people leave out of their stories. This is change. This is where you see the new life, the new way of being for the character. What was the change in Patty? Confidence. What did she say at the end? Can't wait to do it again. That's quite a change from someone who was sleepless, sick to her stomach, didn't want to do the speech, even though she volunteered, right? Here's the key to the change. It has to be a new way of life that your prospective client or patient or whatever your business is, whatever that person wants, that's where the story has to give that kind of result. So if you're a CPA and people want to save money on their business, you got to tell a story of somebody who saved money in their business. If you're in the home health care arena like Teresa, it's got to be people whose families feel better about the care their loved one is getting. So think about what is the end result that my listener wants. Give that to them in a story. This has been helpful. Wow, that's an overwhelming response. I know you're tired. I know it's cold out. But no, have these been useful tools? Can you see where you can use some of them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't want you walking around and oh my God, that was an hour long. All right, if you would like some additional information, the free resource I have, no strings, no obligation. It's called 52 Storytelling Tips. What I'll do is I'll send around some clipboards. Every week you'll get a 5-minute audio and a PDF transcription of that lesson, and one skill builds on top of another. If you like that, just write down your name and your email address. It is my list. Nobody gets it. You can opt out whenever you want. And I do ask that you write legibly, and I'm not pointing fingers, because my initials are MD. I write like one. Apologies to any doctors in the house. And I want to make sure if you put your name down that you're getting it. So I'm going to hand these clipboards around. I'll start over here. So that's a complimentary resource. I mentioned Michael Haig's book, the Business Storytelling Made Easy. Get that book. A lot of the ideas that I work off of are centered around his 6-step formula. All right, so we've gone through the 5 C's so far. You've got characters, you got circumstances, characters, conflict, cure, change, and number 6 is carry out message. Carry out message is usually one sentence that sums up your entire story and why people should consider talking to you, doing business, following your lead, etc. Now, in my story, I did not really have a carry-out message. It's more of an implied. And it depends on my market. If I was speaking to a group of individuals that I thought were looking for a speech coach, I would have put a line in where Patty, and she did say this, coaching is one of the best things I ever did. You can change your foundational, this carry-out message to tailor to your audience. So if I was a financial advisor still, and I was talking to a group and I wanted to get them as clients, I'd say, the client would say, you know, this is the best thing we've ever done is sit down with you, and financial planning is one of the best decisions we ever made. Something like that sums up your entire message. Carry out message. Number 7 is, I would call change is the most important part of a story, because if the people don't see a change, they won't react. But the number 7 is critical, is conversations. This is the heart of a story. Conversations is dialogue. And what conversation does is it brings the story to life and makes people feel like they're right there with you. Let me tell the Patty story again without dialogue. It's just going to be me as a reporter. When I met my client Patty, I was at a holiday event at a local chamber. And it was very festive, and being a guy, I was standing over by the food. And I was enjoying the sights, sounds, and smells. And all of a sudden, I saw this woman walking toward me. Very smartly dressed, very tailored business suit, nicely cut hair, jewelry that sparkled in the lights of the above. So she looked, I mean, obviously this is a woman of means. But she was approaching me, and her face betrayed her look. She walked over to me, practically ran, and told me that she was looking for a speech coach. We had a conversation, and she told me that she had agreed to give this presentation for the Women of Excellence. And she was so stressed out about it, she was so worried that she thought she was going to embarrass her foundation. She asked for my help. And then I found out she wasn't going to give this speech for a year. I jump ahead 12 months or 11 months, and she's just given the speech, and we are giving her a standing ovation. She did so well. And then come to find out in our conversation afterward that people had given her money and time to the foundation, and she was so excited she was looking forward to speaking again. Factually, is it correct?
Yes.
Did you feel anything? Maybe some boredom? It was like a reporter on TV standing on the street saying, "This is Michael Davis, Channel 5 News, and I just saw this woman walk over to this man, and she's looking for a speech coach. And it looks, well, I don't know, looks like they're getting along. Maybe. 11 months later, hey, I'm at the event. She's giving a great speech. That's what it is. If you want to separate from other people when you tell your story, use conversation. Dialogue. Dialogue brings it to life. When Patty says, I'm sick to my stomach, I'm not sleeping at night. I'm thinking about this 24/7. I don't want to embarrass our foundation. Can you relate to that? It's much more relatable than me reporting what she felt. So when you're putting a presentation together, a story, look at it and ask yourself, where can I use dialogue instead of being a reporter? Now, I said before that a story has to be true but not 100% factual. Patty is still a friend. We've been friends for 7 years. Do you think that is exactly what she said to me that day when I met her? No, it's not. What did she say? I don't know. She doesn't know. It doesn't matter. Okay? Because I've talked to her. Because she's given me permission to tell the story. But she's a legend with all my clients. Everybody knows Patty. But I talked to her one day when I asked her for permission to tell the story. I said, what did we say that day? And she said, I don't know. You're the good listener. Here's what I discovered over the years. A story does not have to be 100% factual because what we're looking for is emotional truth. That's the critical point to a story. What was true about the story is that Patty was stressed and sick, and she didn't want to do the speech when I first met her. And she really struggled with this. And she is a person who talks too much, by her own admission, okay? And the night she gave the speech, she did get a standing ovation, and she was thrilled because 4 people did give her checks and 6 people did volunteer time, and she was so excited. So what she said, you'll never remember a week after the story. But if you run into me and I ask you, what were Patty's emotions, you'll remember. That's the power of a good story. So as you put yours together, remember, it's the emotional truth. Don't get so hung up on, well, did I say it this way? Did I not say it that way? Boy, I've seen people sweat over these kind of details, and they're worried that they're lying to their audience. Well, no, I'm not lying to you. I don't remember what she said. Neither does she, but that's not what's important. What's the emotion that was created? If you do that, you'll hook your audience. People don't fact check, just so you know. We're kind of busy today, and nobody's come up to me and said, Patty said to you, I'm really stressed out, and I'm worried about the foundation. I don't think she said it that way. It doesn't happen, okay? So don't worry. And I'm only saying this, I'm not trying to be facetious. I've had people putting speeches together, they worry about this kind of detail. Stop. You're stressing yourself out for no reason. People don't remember what they say, you say. They remember what they see in their minds when you say it. So one of the most important lessons I ever got about speaking and presenting, it's not what you say, it's what they hear. So you've got circumstances, characters, conflict, cure, change, carry out message, and conversation. That's a lot. I don't expect you to walk out of here a storytelling expert, but you can use this 7-step formula in your next story, your business story, to create a narrative that people will begin to react to. Now, I promise you this, if you use this the first time, you're going to feel so uncomfortable and so stressed out that you go, why am I doing this? Now, remember what it was like to ride a bike the first time. It wasn't comfortable. Second time. First time you fell down. Second time you fell down. Third time you kept falling, and then one day it started happening, and magic happened, and you were riding all over the place. Same thing will happen with stories. Don't expect it to feel great the first time and the second. But as you get more comfortable telling it, you will see that people begin to react to you differently, and they'll be much more engaged. Now, we've got a few more minutes. Tracy, do you still have a short story you'd like to share, give it some quick coaching?
Sure.
Just to see what it's like. All right, help me welcome Tracy to the stage.
Something truthful?
Truthful, but not 100% factual. Okay, what's your background? What do you
I'm
do?
in sales. I've been a customer service and in sales. I work for First Light Home Care. My name's Tracy. Oh, hi everyone. My name's Tracy Grady. I'm with First Light Home Care. I represent Beth Steele's office out in Florence, Kentucky, and we work with communities and help with supplemental staffing as well as provide care for personal and companion care.
What kind of story do you have?
So how many
Well,
words?
just give me the quick overview. What's this for? Is this for work?
No.
Okay.
I was just gonna do personal.
That's all right.
Okay. 10 years ago, I became a widow suddenly one night. I was a mother of 2 teenage boys and didn't know what to do. So I found a paper on the counter and called this organization called Companions on a Journey, and a woman answered a phone and saved my life. I am now remarried. I have 3 stepdaughters, and my boys are 23 and 26, and I have a 2-year-old grandson.
Okay, great. Over here. The piece of
I
paper.
was trying to think about it.
That's okay. No, the piece of paper on the table that was a game changer, right?
Yes, that was the
Okay.
lady's name, but saved my life.
Okay. Now this is something Michael Hay taught me, and that was good. It was short, and you're on the spot. I get it. Michael Hay taught me, bring us into the story right before the key moment in the story. So, and you can twist the order of events. So what you could consider doing, and by the way, there's no one way to do this. I'm just going to give different suggestions. Think about different ways to do this, Tracy. Take me back to the moment when you saw the piece of paper on the counter. How were you feeling?
Oh, it's distraught, it's crying, sad, devastated,
Okay.
lost, pretty much.
How long had this been since your husband passed away?
About 2 months.
Okay, 2 months. Now I'm asking for details for a reason, because we do need to add some, or else it's too general. So I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting what I said before, but we do need some details to give us context. So you could say something like this. It was a night like every night the previous 2 months. I was distraught, exhausted. I'd been crying all night. And then I saw the paper that literally changed everything. Does that create some curiosity? What are some of the questions you would have here?
Why was she distraught?
Why was she distraught? What's on the paper? What happened 2 months ago? Here's a key to storytelling. Create curiosity.
So don't tell the details first.
Don't tell the details first. The details are important, but get us intrigued right away. What happened? Why is she feeling that way? What's on the paper? I want to hear more. In marketing and networking, because you're in sales, right? In marketing and networking, we're taught to create these 30-second commercials that prompt what question?
Tell me more.
Tell me more. Tell me more. That's what we want to do here in our stories. So now you've laid out this piece of paper. Now you can go back in time and say, 2 months earlier, my life completely changed. See, still creating curiosity. I'm telling you, but I'm not telling you, and I want to keep you on the edge of your seat. Tell me more. Well, your husband must be passed away unexpectedly.
Yes.
Okay, my husband Dennis. Did you get a phone call?
No,
Okay.
I found it.
Okay, I'm not trying to go into too much of your pain, I apologize.
That's all right, I tell the story a lot
Okay,
because.
I figured if you were up here telling it here, I should have, look, I made a mistake, I should have gotten permission, so mistake on my part, but, put us in the scene. If this is a painful scene, I'm sure. 2 months earlier, I had found my husband Dennis passed away. Totally unexpected. Do I have your attention now? Do you want to know what happened next? And I applaud Tracy for being up here to even tell parts of the story like this, because now we have to figure out why we're telling the story. Now, and again, you just threw this together, and again, I applaud you for that. What would be a potential message you could have for this story?
Well, my point of telling the story would be to let others know that they're not alone and you can survive a tragic incident. We go through this a lot with our jobs, where we go into a very unstable environment because everybody's shocked and grieving a lot of times, whether it's the loss of their life. And so I was trying to present something here that we deal with on our daily jobs, that, you know, there are circumstances out there that people will get through this, but we all do need help. And it's up to you if you want to ask for it or not, but I find for myself, by getting that, you know, help, and now I help others in my, the community that I work for, that I can provide that, and it's okay to ask for help, and that you can manage going through some kind of grief.
So you're not just talking about death here, it could be all.
Oh, no, it's grief, the loss of a job, the loss of a life, the loss of, you know, there's a lot of different options of how we handle things, and grief is a loss of a dream of what you might do in the future. So grief is a lot of things that we all deal with here, right, in our work.
Give her another hand. You have to be careful with a story that involves death, because I have heard speakers who manipulate your emotions to get you to do something. I'm not Tracy at all, I'm not saying she's doing that. I think it's wonderful that you've got a story that gets set up. Hey, I've been through this. It's hell on earth, but once you get through it, you're better. On the other side of it, you're better. You can do it. Terrific potential to help people with a story of loss and tragedy and survival. And you're thriving today, right? You've got your Brady Bunch.
I'm working, yeah.
So, and then that's real quick. So you can make changes that fast. And you can tell stories. Did you feel anything with Tracy's story? Yes. See how fast people can make a connection. If she had gotten up here and given statistics, you'd have been like, okay, yeah, 17% of the population deals with grief on a weekly basis, blah, 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 blah. All right? We don't want to hear it. So I will be here afterwards for a few minutes if you've got any specific questions. But I would like to thank you for your attention. I know this time of year life gets hectic. I'm glad you could come out, and I'm so glad it didn't snow, because that always ruins presentations. So thank you for being here today. Remember, of all of the things that you have in your business world, you have competitors who have the same thing. There's one thing they do not have, and that is your story. Learn to tell that well, and you can make a huge difference. Thank you so much.